The Complete Works of Swami Vivekananda, Volume 1, Section 2, 4th Chapter. What is duty? It is necessary in the study of Karma Yoga to know what duty is. If I have to do something, I must first know that it is my duty and then I can do it. The idea of duty again is different in different nations. The Mohammedans say whatever written in Quran is duty. Hindus say whatever is in Vedas is duty. Christians say whatever is in Bible is duty. We find that there are varied ideas of duty, different according to different states in life, different historical periods, and different nations. The term duty, like every other universal abstract term, is impossible clearly to define. We can only get an idea of it by knowing its practical operation and results. When certain things occur before us, we have all a natural and trained impulse to act in the certain manner towards them. When this impulse comes, the mind begins to think about the situation. Sometimes it thinks that it is good to act in a particular manner under a given condition. At other times, it thinks that it is wrong to act in the same manner, even in a very same circumstances. The ordinary idea of duty everywhere is that every good man follows the dictates of his consciousness. But what is it that makes an act a duty? If a Christian finds a piece of beef before him and does not eat it to save his own life, or will not give it to save the life of another man, he is sure to feel that he has not done his duty. But if Hindu dares to eat the piece of beef or give it to another Hindu, he is equally sure to feel that he too has not done his duty. The Hindu training and education makes him feel that way. In the last century, there were notorious bands of robbers in India called thugs. They thought it is their duty to kill any man they could and take away their money. Larger the number of men they killed, the better they thought they were. Ordinarily, if a man goes out into a street and shoots down another man, he is apt to feel sorry for it, thinking that he has done wrong. But if the very same man has a soldier in his regiment kills not one but 20, he is certain to feel glad and think that he has done his duty remarkably well. Therefore, we see that it is not the thing done that defines a duty. To give an objective definition of duty is thus entirely impossible. Yet there is duty from the subjective side. Any action that makes us go Godward is a good action, and is our duty. Any action that makes us go downward is evil and is not our duty. From the subjective standpoint, we may see that certain acts have a tendency to exhort and ennoble us, while certain other acts have a tendency to degrade and to brutalize us. But it is not possible to make out with certainty which acts have which kind of tendencies in relation to all persons of all sorts and conditions. There is, however, only one idea of duty which has been universally accepted by all mankind of all ages and sects and countries, and that has been summed up in Sanskrit aphorism thus: do not injure any being. Not injuring any being is virtue, injuring any being is sin. The Bhagavad Gita frequently adduces to duties depending upon the birth and position in life. Birth and position in life in a society largely determines the mental and moral attitude of individual towards the various activities of life. It is therefore our duty to do that work which will exhaust and enables us in accordance with the ideas and activates of the society in which we are born. But it must be particularly remembered that same idea and activities do not prevail in all societies and countries. Our ignorance of this is the main cause of much hatred of the nation, of one nation towards another. An American thinks that whatever an American does is in accordance with the custom of his country is the best thing to do, and that whoever does not follow his custom must be a very wicked man. A Hindu thinks that his customs are the only right ones and are best in the world, and that whoever doesn't obey it are wicked person. This is quite natural mistake which all of us are adapted to make, but it is very harmful. It is the cause of half the uncharitableness found in the world. When I came to this country and I was going through the Chicago Fair, a man from behind pulled at my turban. I looked back and saw that he was a very gentlemanly looking man, neatly dressed. I spoke to him, and when he found that I knew English, he became very much abashed. On another occasion, in the same fair, another man gave me a push. When I asked him the reason, he also was ashamed and stammered out an apology, saying, "Why do you dress like that way?" The sympathies of these men were limited within the range of their own language and their own fashion of dress. Much of the oppression of a powerful nation and weaker ones is caused by the prejudice. It dries up their fellow feeling for fellow men. That very man who asked me why I did not dress as he did and wanted to ill treat me because of my dress may have been a very good man, good father, a good civilization, but a kindliness of nature dies out as soon as he saw a man in a different dress. Strangers are exploited in all countries because they do not know how to defend themselves. Thus, they carry home false impressions of the people they have seen. Sailors, soldiers, traders behave in foreign lands a very queer ways, although they would not dream of doing so in their own countries. Perhaps this is why the Chinese call Europeans and Americans foreign devils. They could not have done this if they had met the good and kindly sides of the Western lives. Therefore, one point we ought to remember is that we should always try to see the duty of others through their own eyes and never judge the custom of other people by our own standard. I am not the standard of the universe. I have to accommodate myself to the world and not the world to me. So we see that environment change the nature of our duties, and doing the duty which is ours what at any particular time is the best thing we can do in this world. Let us do that. Let us do the duty which is ours by birth. When we have done that, let us do the duty which is ours by our position in life and in society. There is, however, one great danger in human nature, that man never examines himself. He thinks he is quite as fit to be on the throne as the king. Even if he is, he must first show that he has done the duty of his own position, and then higher duties will come with him. When we begin to work honest in the world, nature gives us blow right and left, soon enables us to find out our position. So man can long occupy satisfactory a position for which he is not fit. There is no use of grumbling against nature's adjustments. He who does the lower work is not therefore a lower man. No man is to be judged by the mere nature of his duties, but all should be judged by manner and spirit and the spirit in which they perform them. Later on, we shall find that even this idea of duty undergoes changes, and that the greatest work is done only when there is no selfish motive to prompt it. Yet it is work through the sense of duty. It leads us to work without an idea of duty. When work will become worship, Nay, something higher than will work be done for its own sake. We shall find that philosophy of duty, whether it be in the form of ethics or of love, is the same as in every other yoga. The object being the attenuating of the lower self, so that the real higher self may shine forth. The lessening of the frittering away of energies on the lower plane of existence, so that the soul may manifest itself on the higher ones. This is accomplished by the continuous denial of the low desire which duty rigorously requires. The whole organization of society has thus been developed consciously or unconsciously in the realm of action and experience, where by limiting selfishness, we open the way to the unlimited expansion of the real nature of man. Duty is seldom sweet. It is only when love greases its wheels that it runs smoothly. It is continuous friction. Otherwise, how else would parents do their duties to their children, husbands to their wives, and vice versa? Do we not meet with cases of friction every day in our lives? Duty is sweet only through love, and love shines in freedom alone. At its freedom to be a slave to the senses, to anger, to jealousy, and a hundred other petty things that must occur every day in human life. In all these little roughness that we meet with in life, highest expressions of freedom is to forbear. Human slaves to their own irritable, jealous temper are apt to blame their husbands and assert their own freedom, as they think, not knowingly, that every thereby they only prove that they are slaves. So it is with husbands who eternally find fault with their wives. Chastity is the first virtue in men or woman, and the man who, however, be he may have strayed away, cannot be brought to the right path by the gentle and loving and chaste wife is indeed very rare. The world is not yet as bad as that. We hear much about brutal husbands all over the world and about the impurities of men, but it is not true that there are quite as many brutal and impure women as men. If all women were as good and pure as their own constant assertion would lead one to believe, I am perfectly satisfied that there would not be one impure man in the world. What brutality is there which purity and chastity cannot conquer? A good, chastity wife who thinks of every other man except her own husband, has her child, and has the attitude of the mother towards all men, will grow so great in the power of her purity that there cannot be a single man, however brutal, who will not breathe and an atmosphere of holiness in her presence. Similarly, every husband must look upon all women except his own wife in the light of his own mother or daughter or sister. The man again who wants to be a teacher of religion must look upon every woman as his mother and always behave towards her as such. The position of the mother is the highest in the world, as it is the one place in which to learn and exercise greatest unselfishness. The love of God is the only love that is higher than the mother's love. All others are lower. It is the duty of woman to think of her children first and then of herself. But instead of that, if the parents are always thinking of themselves first, the result is that the relationship between parent and children becomes the same as that between of birds and their offsprings, which as soon as they are fledged do not recognize any parents. Blessed indeed is the man who is able to look upon a woman as the representative of the motherhood of God. Blessed indeed is the woman to whom men represent the fatherhood of the God. Blessed has the child who look upon their parents as divinity manifested on earth. The only way to rise is by doing the duty next to us and thus gathering strength to go on until we reach the higher state. The young sannyasis went to the forest. There he meditated, worshipped, and practiced yoga for a long time. After years of hard work and practice, he was one day sitting under the tree when some dry leaves fell upon his head. He looked up and saw crow and crane fighting on the top of the tree, which made him very angry. He said, "What dare you throw these dry leaves upon my head?" As with these words he angrily glanced at them, a flash fire went out of his head, such as the yogi's power, and burned the burns to ash. He was very glad, almost overjoyed at the development of power. He could burn crow and crane by look. After a time, he had to go to the town to beg his bread. He went, stood at the door, and said, "Mother, give me a food." A voice came from inside the house. "Wait a little, my son." The young man thought, "You rich woman, how dare you make me wait? You do not know my power yet." While he was thinking about thus, the voice came again. "Boy, don't be thinking too much of yourself. Here is neither crow nor crane." He was astonished. Still he had to wait. At last the woman came and he fell at her feet and said, "Mother, how did you know that?" She said, "My boy, I do not know your yoga or your practices. I am a common everyday woman. I made you wait because my husband is ill and I was nursing him. All my life I have struggled to do my duty. When I was unmarried, I did my duty to my parent. Now that I am married, I do my duty to my husband. That is all yoga I practice. But by doing my duty, I have become illuminated. Thus, I could read your thoughts and know what you had done in the forest. If you want to know something higher than this, go to the market of such and such a town where you will find the Vyadha who will tell you something that you will be very glad to learn." The sannyasi thought, "Why should I go to that town and to the Vadha?" But after what he had seen, his mind opened a little, so he went. When he came near the town, he found a market, and there he saw at a distance a big fat Veda cutting meat with big knives and talking and bargaining with different people. The young man said, "Lord, help me. Is this the man from whom I am going to learn? He is the incarnation of demon. If he is anything." In the meantime, this man looked up and said, "Oh Swami, did the lady send you here? Take a seat until I have done my business." The sannyasi thought, "What comes to me here?" He took his seat. The man went on with his work, and after he finished, he took his money and said to the sannyasi, "Come, sir, come to my home." On reaching home, the Vaidya gave him the seat, saying, "Wait here," and went into the house. He then washed his old father and mother, fed them, and did all he could to please them. After which he came to the sannyasi and said, "Now, sir, you have come here to see me. What can I do for you?" The sannyasi asked him a few questions about soul, about God, and the Vyadha gave him the lecture which forms a part of Mahabharata in Bhagavad Gita. It contains one of the highest flights of Vedanta. When the Veda finished his teaching, Sannyasi felt astonished. He said, "Why are you in that body? With such knowledge as yours, why are you the Veda's body? And doing such a filthy, ugly work?" "My son," replied the Veda, no duty is ugly, no duty is impure. My birth placed me in these circumstances and environment. In my boyhood, I learned the trade, and I am unattached and try to do my duty well. I try to do my duty as an householder, and I try to do all I can to make my father and mother happy. I neither know your yoga, nor I have become sannyasi, nor did I go out of the world into the forest. Nevertheless, All that you have heard and seen has come to me through the unattached doing of the duty which belongs to my position. There is a sage in India, a great yogi, one of the most wonderful men I have ever seen in my life. He is a peculiar man. He will not teach anyone. If you ask him a question, he will not answer. It is too much for him to take up the position of the teacher. He will not do it. If you ask a question and wait for some answer days, in course of conversation, he will bring up the subject and wonderful light will be thrown on it. He told me once the secret of work, let the end and the means be joined into one. When you are doing any work, do not think of anything beyond. Do it as worship, as the highest worship, and devote your whole life to it for the time being. Thus, in the story, the Vyadha and the woman did their duty with cheerfulness, the wholeheartedness, and the result was that they became illuminated, clearly showing that the right performance of the duty of any station in life without attachment to results leads us to the highest realization of the perfection of the soul. It is the work who is attached to results that grumbles about the nature of the duty which has fallen to his lot. To the unattached worker, all duties are equally good and form efficient instrument with which selfishness and sensuality may be killed and the freedom of the soul secured. We are all apt to think too highly of ourselves. Our duties are determined by our desires to much larger extent than we are willing to grant. Competition rouses envy, and it kills the kindness of the heart. To the grumbler, all duties are distasteful. Nothing will ever satisfy him, and his whole life is doomed to prove a failure. Let us work on, doing as we go, whatever happens to be our duty, and being ever ready to put our shoulders to the wheel. Then surely shall we see the light.